What do you think? Are we seeing a Showtime kick here?
Kick Sports Podcast.
God damn, look at those belts behind you. What a good setup you got, man. That is good looking, eh?
Yeah, I like it, huh?
Yeah. Awesome, man. Very sparkly.
It's looking good. All right, big fight coming up here with Benson Henderson. The third time you're going to be fighting him, but in karate combat this time. Tell us, how's training coming along? How do you feel about a third fight with Benson Henderson?
Man, I respect Ben as an opponent, man. Like, he's one of those guys that's been competing just as long as I have been, in generations in this game, man. And he's accomplished a lot as well. But you know, the karate combat rules, I feel like it's my world, bro. Like that's what I grew up in. You know, I've been doing this my whole career. The only reason why I made the transition to MMA is because there was no place for me to, you know, do my open style fighting in, you know, at this level. So like now that karate combat comes around, it just opens up a wave of you know, a whole new generation of fighters. And I mean, not even new generation, guys that have been doing traditional martial arts that couldn't transition to MMA just because they didn't lack the jiu-jitsu and lack the wrestling.
Absolutely.
100%. I know both of you are Taekwondo guys, but if you notice in the karate combat pit, they set up those half walls, largely inspired by the Showtime kick. And now they got Showtime himself in it. What do you think? Are we seeing a Showtime kick here?
I'm definitely gonna try it, bro. Like this rule set allows me to do anything I want, man. Like I get to open up my arsenal of tricks. You know, like a lot of my stuff from that comes from traditional martial arts based, Taekwondo based. Like I couldn't do it in the cage just because of the rule set. You know, like if I got put on my back, I'd lose a round. It'd be 2-3 minutes before I can get up. So my arsenal gets to open wide up, bro. I'm excited about it. I got a lot of stuff that I didn't get to show.
How does preparation differ, you know, as opposed to MMA training going into karate combat for this one?
I hate to say it, but it's so much easier on the body. Like you take away the wrestling, you take away the jiu-jitsu. I mean, not jiu-jitsu is crazy, but like that's where the accidents happen. Like when the wrestling, you put the kickboxing and the striking with the wrestling. Those are usually when all the accidents happen, the bumps, the bruises, the little knee twist, the shoulder twist. So I've been enjoying this one, bro. I've been doing a lot of sparring. I'm way more sparring than I have for most MMA fights. But you know, controlled sparring with the purpose of, you know, like, I understand what I'm going into. It's, you know, this is a different kind of game that I'm you know, going to for mixed martial arts.
Would you almost say the frequency is not, I mean, maybe not dipped dramatically, but dipped slightly as opposed to a full-on MMA schedule?
No, I would say it's more cardio based. It reminds me of boxing camp, because boxing camp you really focus on one discipline, right? So you got to like add these other workouts in to make you up for, you know, or mixed martial arts. You would practice jiu-jitsu, you would have your own kickboxing practice, you would have a boxing practice, you have a wrestling practice, and then one day you put it all together. And you know, those are the kind of your sparring days. Whereas here, like I'm focusing on one thing, you know, striking it by itself. So I get to spar a lot more because that's, you know, my workouts are way less.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. Like the first Benson Henderson fight in the WEC, I watched live. I was a young guy back then, but that is one of the greatest fights in MMA history. I looked earlier and I was like, oh, we're almost the same age, but I'm just. But that was one of the greatest fights in MMA history. Like, what do you remember from that night? Like, that was one of the greatest nights ever.
I remember the whole night, man. It was in his hometown, and then the second fight we fought at my hometown, which was like a, you know, crazy setup. And now, you know, Las Vegas is my new hometown, so I feel like he's coming over, you know, to my new spot. But yeah, that first WEC fight, you know, he was looking unbeatable, bro. Like he ran through everybody in the WEC. He had the whole package. He had the wrestling, he had the jiu-jitsu, he had the striking, he could kick, he could box. Like he was a legit 4-round fighter. And I fought him only within like, I would say like 9 months. When I got to the WEC, I had an injury and I was supposed to fight Anthony Njokwanje. The crazy thing, I'm training with Anthony right now, getting ready for this fight. He's another great striking, a kickboxer here in Vegas. But so I missed out on that fight, and then I fought Mike Campbell, and that was like March or June. Maybe it was June when I fought Mike Campbell, and then from June to November, when I fought Ben Henderson, December, that was like less than 11 months all the way through to get that title shot to win that belt. So it was like a quick runoff.
Dude, man, it's just been amazing to see of like that fast career start to the incredible success that you had. Like looking back, what was the moment? Because there's a lot of amazing moments to your career, but when did you actually sit back and go, "Oh shit, I'm successful"?
My mom still asks me when I'm getting a real job, and I bought my mom a house. I get a real job. I'm like, Mom, this is my career. Like I'm really doing this. But Man, it's been a lot of different moments because, like, I had that crazy success on the Wheaties box, beating Gilbert Melendez the way I did, and then RDA happened, and then I lost to Edson Barboza, Eddie Alvarez. I don't think I lost that one, but I'll take that as an L. And then I had to figure out my bounce back. So, and then that bounce back happened. I beat Oliveira, fought to Max Holloway, missed weight. So it was a bunch of different things. And I move up to 170, have success against Wonder Boy, knockout, one of the only guys to knock out Wonder Boy. Respect to Wonder Boy, he's a fucking great guy. But that right there was like another one of my moments where it was like another highlight and another jump up in my career, man. So like I've had this roller coaster career. I was trying to teach my little brother that. I'm like, yo, mixed martial arts, like it's not all one way. Like it's gonna go up, down, but the lowest lows make these highest highs feel that much more better.
Speaking of I find that funny when you said your mom, why don't you get a real job? Yeah. At the beginning, was it a lot harder then? Because you're multiple world champion. You've had a lot of success in your career. And how hard was it at the beginning with your family?
You know what? I think the money wasn't there yet. So like the money, like when I beat Ben Henderson, the first time, and I did the Showtime Kick, I still had to like figure out how to make money. But luckily for me, I've had Taekwondo gyms and traditional martial arts gyms my whole career. So I always had like a way of making money outside of the cage. I still have them too. Pettis Martial Arts in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we still teach traditional martial arts, point sparring, style fighting. I just really believe in the life skills that martial arts gave me, man. Like when I was up and coming, it wasn't about like being the UFC champ. It wasn't about like going to the fight on the big stages. Whereas now I see these guys training, that's all their goals are. Like, oh, if I don't make it, if I don't win this next fight, they're missing the life skills that come with the practices that they're doing. So I think, when I look back at like even my gyms, like I really base it on that. Like the life skills I'm getting, like, and what I've got from my life, my career, bro. Because I was for real, like lowest lows, like depressed and. The only thing that kept me going was training. And I'm like, yo, I'm not going to quit. Like, there's no reason to quit. At one point, I could have been like, all right, I've done enough for the sport. Let me pull back and, just enjoy my life and focus on businesses. But I still love the competition. I enjoy it. When the fans are out there, man, it's like it's the craziest feeling ever. And I just like, I can't get enough of that.
Absolutely awesome. From everything from the gym, from the management team to the APFC, and of course your brother, I feel like, and this is something that I've talked about, but it's hard to talk about my own success, but I can see my success through the lens of other people that I've helped. And I feel like you are kind of like that too, in that your success, the way that you really validate yourself is through empowering the other people around you. Do you think that's correct?
Yeah, 1,000,000%, bro. Yeah, like even like my little cousin just fought out for Octagon. He's the first American champ out there in Octagon in the UK. And I did my fight show out in the UK. So it was seemed like, and the guy that just won this past weekend, Cody Lynn, he's a guy from Kenosha, Wisconsin. He trains with Ben Rothwell. Me and Ben trained together forever. To see that guy win that belt and the next stages of his career about to happen on my platform. So it's amazing.
I'm going to go back to Karate Combat just one more second as well. But in terms of, so I don't want to look past Benson Henderson. Obviously, his game, very tough competitor. What would be the next fight if if that all goes well at Karate Combat? And I've got two suggestions, by the way. One I'd like to see is one I think is a good suggestion is a rematch with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That would be awesome, or even a fight with Conor. Both.
Man, they got Raymond Daniels over there as well, bro. And I'm a fan of his striking, bro. That's another great guy that I would love to get in there with. The champ at 165, I always murder his name, but that dude, he beat Raymond Daniels, and when I know the way he strikes and the way his style is based on that. So I think I don't want to look past Ben. I know what I got coming up. It's going to be a whole new experience for me, but I'm excited about the future, especially with Karate Combat.
100%, man. Awesome,
man. So and you're gonna be fighting in the PFL as well at the same time. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So I have a contract where I could box, I could do MMA, and now I got Karate Combat.
Man, let me throw some names your way, and you just say like, yeah, I'll fuck him up, no problem there. Like Cédric Doumbé, what do you think?
Bro, I love that dude, and I wouldn't say I'll fuck him up, but that would be a tough matchup where I would have to I would take that one fucking serious because that dude is tough, man. So like I'm a fan of his kickboxing career. I think in MMA he still has some. Like we got to see him get tested first before we can be like, oh, he is who he is. But that'd be a great fight. I think the PFL was definitely interested in that one too. So the PFL is about to do their pay-per-view formats, and for me, I couldn't do the tournament format. I've done that in my early parts of my career. I hustled as hard as I could, fought 4 or 5 times in a row. I think the most I fought in 1 year was 5 times with the WEC. That's how I got that title shot. It was like 13 months, 5 fights, got my title shot. But now where I'm at in my career, bro, I gotta take my time off. I do my fight, take my time off, and get healthy again, and then get back motivated. So I'm excited to see when their first pay-per-view is and how they plan on putting that all together.
Oh, and I think that's a really key point there. Fighting frequency as you've aged up. Maybe training for a karate combat is very different, but your age, I imagine training due to your age compared to in 2008 has to be quite different, right?
The wrestling and the jiu-jitsu for me, man. Like not really even jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu, I go with that. On my off season, I'm rolling jiu-jitsu with the gi on, but it's putting the kickboxing and the striking with the wrestling. That's where I get most of my injuries. That's where most of my injuries actually came from. From my shoulders to my knees, and like all the surgeries I had came from that aspect of it. So that's that part of my body. Like I was actually talking to Serge about this. Serge was like, bro, this is the first camp, and he's 30 now. He's like, this is the first camp where I would wake up sore as fuck. Like I couldn't even I would even have to take days off. I'm like, bro, welcome to 30s, man. Like it's easier.
Yeah, we know the feeling, and we're not even competitors now. We're in our 30s.
Yeah, you ready? Wake up feeling different, man. Like you have a bad meal, it lasts that much longer. If I eat a shitty meal, it's like 2 days before I feel normal.
100%. Is it kind of a relief now, the fact that you're not on the old win money, show money, win money kind of format, and it's just all guaranteed now? Do you feel a lot more less pressure?
I do all my own, negotiations now in my own career because I feel like I know myself the best and I understand. Like before my earlier career, I'd be like, yeah, set them up, I'll fight the toughest guys. I'll cut down to 145. I'll fight at 170. And I didn't really care. I was just like, I was that dude, man. Like I was talking to Nate Diaz about this too. Like Nate kind of had the same career where we would just fight anybody and everybody. Like we wanted the toughest guy for us to fight, and that's who got us up. But now at this point in my career, I'm a little more smarter, and I know like this is how I feed my family, and this is how I can do my other businesses, and I'm a little more selectful on the risk I take.
So this was one of the questions that we had because we saw you guys hanging out. You mentioned it in another interview. What do you and Nate have cooking right now? You guys are working on something together. What's going on?
No, man, we're not actually just good friends now, bro. Like, just respect the game. Nate's doing his thing with his real fighting, and he had a great fight he just had done, and he made a shit ton of money. And I think it's more fighters need to talk and understand, like, how are you making money? Where's the money coming from? How much are you making? I feel like most fighters don't even ask those questions to each other. They see each other, they mean mug each other. And me and Nate were at that point. One time in our career, like we would see each other, it would always be like, no, not problems, but we had that a little bit of drama in there. But now at this point in my career, we're bouncing ideas off each other. How is he making money now? What's his plans in the future? I feel like more of that than anything.
Yeah. So this is fairly recent news come out. Bellator's been acquired by PFL. What's your thoughts on that, Anthony? And what do you think how do you think that would help in terms of the overall landscape of MMA?
PFL is here to stay. Like, I already knew that when I signed with them 2 years ago, bro. Like when I had my first contract deal with them, like I saw the players behind the PFL, and you got to just respect it. They come from a different level. They're not MMA guys. They're not like boxing guys that are trying to do MMA. They come from different sports that are actually been around for long periods of time, and they're bringing that mindset into MMA. And obviously, they're not afraid to spend money. They're out here. They're making big. Francis Ngannou making that happen. Jake Paul making that happen. They're doing the right things to make that stay. It's going to take some time for the general population to be like, all right, PFL's here. Right now, UFC's here. PFL's here. Like once it starts, the fights start happening. You'll see a leveling out, man. Like the general population will understand, like, the talent. Because I went to the PFL and I had shitty performances against guys that I should have beaten in the UFC. And so it's not about like, the organization. It's just the level of roster they got. So I think with them buying that, Bellator, their roster went way the fuck up. We just got to see how they figure out how they're going to put it, in play. Like they have some good matchups they could make right now. They just got to be very selectful on how they put those two organizations out there. Definitely.
There was one thing, I think it was the PFL president said this recently. He, founder or president, one of the two, but he was saying, Dana White is probably very, very scared at the moment, or he's probably worried. What's your thoughts on that?
Dana's never worried, bro. Dana's got years on everybody in this game, and his worth ethic, bro. No lie, I get inspired by that guy. Look at how shredded that dude is right now. Whenever he's on something, bro, he's all in. He's all in on it. So like, I would say he's nervous. I feel like Dana's without Dana, none of these conversations would even been had. The UFC didn't have the success it had. There probably wouldn't be no PFL. there probably wouldn't be, you know, Bellator and guys like putting money over to this sport. Like Dana made this sport happen. So like I don't think he's nervous. I don't think he's, you know, he definitely wants to put on the best fights, but his business model, like what he's got set up is, man, it's bulletproof right now. Like from the Contender Series to the slap to the UFC, you know, fight nights to the pay-per-views, bro. Like they have it on lock.
So let me ask you, do you think the UFC would ever be receptive to a potential cross promotion, even if it's just for Ngannou? Is it a hard no, or do you think there's a little bit there?
Hard no. Dana's model is just too, you know, like if he does that, he opens the floodgates to everything else. You know, Dana knows what his goals are, what his business model is, and he doesn't veer from that for many people. Like, you know, he understands what he's building and what he's built to this point. You know, so I feel like for him to do that, he would have to be willing to like put the UFC marketing machine, and that's what they own, is the marketing. They control the storyline. So like a story comes out, if it comes from the UFC or any of the head guys, that's the truth. Like everybody's like, oh, believe in that stuff. So if they give that to anybody else or put a promotion under that, they're kind of like opening the door for that. So I would say, I don't think Dana does any cross promotions.
Yeah, we were talking about that off air. If it's like we would like to, but reality says otherwise. But speaking of Dana building up the sport, you come from the Roufus kickboxing background, and the Roufus brothers, Rick and Duke, were influential for American style kickboxing. You yourself come from a striking background, but all of us who are super kickboxing fans, all of us switched to MMA. Why do you think MMA dominated in North America and now worldwide when kickboxing is? Yeah,
I was talking to Duke about that actually. Like when I transitioned to MMA, the reason why I did is because my gyms. I own a Taekwondo school, and I was like, yo, if we want to compete, we got to be able to teach kickboxing. We need jiu-jitsu. Because our students need to learn everything. So I signed up at Duke's gym for the purpose of just learning to teach my students. But the reason why I went to Duke's gym is because he was the most famous. Like Rick Roufus was the most famous martial artist I knew. You know, like when he was on ESPN, he was doing them jump spin kicks, and like, you know, it was that was the level we all wanted to get to. Like, y'all want to be on ESPN fighting with, you know, ISK rules or like the American style kickboxing rules. And then I feel like that kind of went away when MMA came, just because of the entertainment value of that, man. Like we got the knockouts, the UFC came in, put a shit ton of money behind it. They built a good brand where kind of like, you know, the kickboxing fans had to decide. And K1 was starting to die out. I mean, K1 still, you know, it was interesting, but like, it wasn't as big as the UFC, and it wasn't big as MMA. So I feel like, and then everybody who wanted to put money into martial arts went to MMA. Like all these new promoters, instead of making a kickboxing league or like, any other style league, they went straight to MMA. They're like, oh, we're gonna do MMA fight shows. But even now, I have kickboxing on my APFC fights. They're so fucking entertaining, bro. So I don't understand. Like, yeah, I'm like, that's exactly what the fans want. Without, like, the fans get pissed when someone wrestles somebody and holds them on the cage. I'm like, that takes away all that. So I mean, ONE FC with the small kickboxing, you know, the small gloves on with kickboxing, you know, Haggerty, Rod Tang, like having those guys over there, that's so entertaining to me. So I feel like, I don't know where that fell off at, but, you know, Rick Roufus, the reason why I got lucky is because Rick Roufus lost to a Thai fighter. Yes. That's why Duke focused so heavy on Muay Thai, and Duke already had that American style kickboxing background with the karate base from his dad, and then he learned Muay Thai. And then I came in and he taught me all of it. So it was like perfect setup for mixed martial arts. It was like the perfect storm, you know, me meeting Duke. Because if I would have met Rick, I wouldn't have got the Muay Thai background. You know, Rick did Muay Thai, but he didn't study it like Duke did. Like Duke really made sure he understood it. So I think, you know, it was just the perfect storm, perfect timing for that to happen. And now that we have this Karate Combat coming out, you know, all those guys that couldn't make that transition happen they have somewhere to perform on. They have, you know, there's a lot of guys that don't do the wrestling, don't do the jiu-jitsu. They're, you know, 7th degree black belts or 5th degree black belts, and they had to stop competing because there's really no one for them to compete at. So yeah, I think this opens up the doors for a lot of people.
Absolutely, man. 100% an exciting time for combat sports in general. Anthony, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It could be, you know, the competitor, the businessman, just, yeah, where would you see yourself in 5 years from now?
If you ask my wife, she wants me to retire now. She's like, man, I can't keep doing this. But I love the competition, bro. So like I tell my business partners, I don't think I'll ever like formally announce a retirement. Like, you know, I'm always going to keep it open. You see these boxers coming back, you know, at 50 years old. You know, I fought Roy Jones. You know, Roy Jones was at 56 years old, and it's cool for him to be able to make that money. You know, he's definitely like, we know who he was in his prime. We know what he did in his prime, and like he's still making money in the sport, and he's still. And because Roy Jones, he'll come to Vegas and spar all the young guys right now. Like I already knew that. Like he was still in shape, he was still sparring. So like for me in five years, I mean, I'd say APFC is, on the way to being, the real prime level before the big shows. Cause that's my goal with that, is being the guy before the big shows. Cause being in the big seat, it's just a lot of stuff that I'm not ready to deal with. And I'd still like to be competing. I don't know if it's at the highest level like that or still like jiu-jitsu tournaments. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure as far as what level of competition, but I don't see myself retired anytime soon. I just turned 36. So I'm like, I still got some time in this.
Man, I can't believe how surreal is it that you get to hear this sentence of Mr. Pettis, congratulations on the win over Roy Jones Jr. Oh, amazing.
In my hometown, man. Like when that opportunity came up, I was like, yo, I can't say no to that. Like, I knew the risk factor. I fought him at 200 pounds. So I fought at 145, Mike Holloway, Charles Oliveira, 155, everybody in the fucking division, 170, Nate Diaz, Wonder Boy Thompson, and then 200 pounds, Roy Jones Jr. So I'm like, my accolade list is crazy. Like, once I retire and once I'm done, like, if you look at the name of the people I fought, gotta be one of the best.
How you got into awesome shape with that as well? You was 200 pounds and you had a six pack as well. What was the training for that as well?
Man, I walk at 190, 195. So like, I was cutting down to get down to 145 was my hardest. I would say going down is way harder than going up. It's a different pace at that pace. You're at lightweight, it's like nonstop, pop, pop, pop. You got to be in crazy cardio shape. At 200 pounds, I definitely was slower, and I didn't have, even that boxing fight. You see, I didn't have as much output. I just had enough output. And I knew his power was way stronger than mine because he was a natural 200 guy. He cut down, I think it was like 240, cut down to 200. I just walked in at my normal weight. Like, I didn't cut no weight. I just literally walked up. I walked on the scale with my chains on and my jeans on. I was 193, I think. So I probably was like 195 when I actually weighed in. Yeah, I think I had a coach here in Vegas that we just really focused on the size. I wanted to make sure if I hit him, because he fought Mike Tyson before me. I'm like, if Mike Tyson couldn't knock him out, why? So my game plan wasn't to knock him out. It was to go out there, outpoint him, use boxing to secure the win. And I got caught with one good hook. Other than that, I feel like my defense was great, my movement was great. But my boxing weight, I think my next boxing fight I'll do a 168. Like, that's where I want to compete at.
Man, hey, we'd love to see you back. But speaking of Mike Tyson, I think it was 4 years ago you were on Hot Boxing with him. It seems like that show is on a lower gear. Everyone's real chill on this show. How was the time with Mike Tyson?
I smoked too much weed. Like, literally, we walked in there and like he had bongs, blondes, everything. And it was his like weed line. So he was like trying to share everything with me. So me and Cédric get in there, we smoke, and then they put on the cameras. And literally all I could say was like, I'm like, dang, that's crazy. That was my response to everything, because I was just too high, man, for real. But his stories and the way he talks and the way he gets into things, bro, he has some history. Like, that dude. I'm actually going to do another podcast with him, with Criss Angel. Me and Chris have a podcast, Talking Junkies. He's on next week, so I get to talk to him again without the weed and like get to really get into deep with him.
Okay, so Criss Angel is like, it's one of those names that we remember because he was like the hottest thing on TV. He's like coming back in the MMA world. He's like one of the commentators now that we see all the time, right?
Well, I brought him in, man. So me and Chris been friends for forever, bro. Like, me and Chris met at a nightclub here in Vegas when I just won the WEC world title. And I just did the Showtime Kick, and like, me and him just kicked it off. We always stayed in touch ever since. And so he has a show here in Las Vegas at Planet Hollywood, and probably one of the most successful shows like that's been running as long as it has been running. And his theater in there is like insane. Like, the only other place you could see that is like the Sphere, but that place is like impossible to rent out or put shows on in there. So when me and him linked back up, I showed him when I was doing with APFC, and he was interested in coming into the business side. So we're gonna partner up next year. I'm gonna be doing shows at his venue, and we're gonna go have our traveling show as well. So yeah, he'll be a business partner for me with APFC.
Holy shit, dude, this is sick, man. You're doing a lot. So how do you balance, like, you are almost the great model of like, take the success that you have in this sport and expand it into other success. Like, tell me more about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I lost my dad when I was 16 and in a house robbery across the street from my house. And at that point I was teaching Taekwondo, but I didn't own my own gym. So like, for 2 years I quit everything. And then we had an opportunity to take over one of my instructors' gyms, me and my older brother. And we took over the gym and we blew that thing up, bro. Like, we went from like 50 students, like 300 students. I was driving a BMW 740 IL, same one that Tupac got killed. And I had that like at 18 years old from teaching Taekwondo. So I realized, like, man, like I can control that. Entrepreneur mindset came, from that, running my own gyms. And And after that, I opened up my sports bar. I had barbershops. I had a lot of businesses that I've put together throughout the years and learned a lot of stuff. But I mean, martial arts is my passion. So like now all the businesses I focus on are around martial arts, Roufus management, the fight show, my gyms, and then my fighting career itself.
Damn, that's awesome, man. How do you, because we ask this question a lot, actually, it's a recurring question in a lot of our interviews. How do you deal with anxiety going into fights? Is that a thing for you? For some people, it isn't. But
it was.
Yeah. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, so I hired a sports psychologist. His name is Michael. He's out here in Vegas, a former MLB player, and he just taught me just the tools. Because really, it is. It's what he taught me was like thoughts, feelings, actions. You get a thought, it creates a feeling, and usually the next action is based on that feeling. And that's the most with MMA. Like when I was going through my downslide, when I was losing, I lost to the wrestler. I'm like, man, like my thought would be like, yo, I need to learn wrestling. The feeling that came from that was like anxiety and like, yo, if I get taken down, I'm going to lose again, or like a fight before that's going to come. And the next action would be like, yo, my striking wouldn't be as crispy because I was thinking about the takedowns. And like, you put that in like every aspect of your life, man. If you're having a fight with your wife or your kids, like that, those three things is what controls your life. And when he taught me that, there's a lot of tools and systems that you can bring you back grounded, bring you in the present moment and understand like, all right, everything that happened in the past, I can't control. What happens in the future, I can't control, but all I can control is right now. And that's how, when I go into all my fights, I do these grounding techniques. I make sure I'm fully present into this present moment because that's all I can control. And I try to get rid of all those other thoughts and feelings that make my actions not do what they're here to do.
Is breathing techniques also something that you implement? Because that's
a grounding technique. But breathing technique, doing the full cleanse of your body of like, going to your head, your arms, your legs, your chest, and bring yourself in that present moment. There's like a visual technique too. If you look at something far away from you, you see something close to you, like you gotta bring yourself to that current moment. But yeah, grounding techniques are huge for me, even before competition for sure. I've gotten so good at it now though, and because I practice it every day, really, man. Like every time I take a shower, like one thing is like you got to be mindful in the shower, smell the soap, feel your body, touch, understand you're in that moment. Because most people take showers and are like, oh shit, I gotta do this today. It creates anxiety. It creates just a level that you don't want to start your day with. So like bringing yourself grounded. I do ice baths a lot too. Ice baths help big time with that, bringing yourself grounded. But yeah, I think when Micah, introduced me to that, I started reading a lot of books. I started, just getting on that journey of like, and really that's how you get better as a person and as a businessman. It's crazy. All the business books I read are exactly the same as, those kind of books of like understanding yourself and anxiety and depression and all that stuff.
Man, and it's so hard for people at our age as well, because I find it in myself. I see it in myself of like always on Instagram, always on TikTok, always on whatever. Of like, even one of the techniques was like just do nothing for 3 minutes, and I was like, holy shit, 3 minutes of doing nothing. This is so hard. It's actually really hard to keep yourself like there, right?
Yeah, bro, it's hard to do nothing for 3 minutes, especially with all the other thing we got going on. If you think about it, like you open your email up, that's dopamine hits. You look at Instagram, dopamine hits. Like everything around us is just so much like set up for us to get quick dopamine hits that like now we can't reset our bodies back to like, all right, the longevity of something is going to come through. But yeah, I mean, there's a great book that I read by Russ Harris. If I forget the title of this one, but
that's okay. I'll look.
He has the confidence gap. It's called The Confidence Gap. That book right there has some of the best grounding techniques, and just the way he puts it is so easy to understand. Like, man, this is how I should be living. This is what I need to be doing. Daily check-ins, journaling, reading, understanding like, where your level of thought conscious is. And then you can put that into whether your job is, reporting or it's fighting or it's business, like same mindset, the same concepts, and you will grow.
Man, absolutely awesome. This was one of my favorite interviews. I really do appreciate your time, sir. And this is like we were talking about crowning moments. This is one of ours. We know that we're successful because we had Showtime on the show, but we're going to be fighting December 15th, Karate Combat 43. Last word goes to you, sir. Talk us on out of here. Shout out who you need to shout out, all that good stuff.
Make sure you guys tune in. It's on YouTube. It's free, so it's going to be a crazy show. And every time I fight, it's Showtime. So I'm excited about to go out there and do everything I've been doing as a kid. I get to go showcase all the striking arsenal that I couldn't do in mixed martial arts, and the opportunity they're giving us traditional martial artists is amazing. So make sure you guys support. If you guys don't know what the karate coin is, Google that. Make sure you get on that aspect as well. And let's do it December 15th.